In the ancient kingdom of Umbari, a strange night arrived, a night that elders would remember for generations. The moon appeared larger than ever seen before, glowing with a deep golden light that covered the whole sky. The wind moved in circles, as if the heavens themselves were watching the land closely. Under this mysterious moon, a baby boy was born. His mother named him Zuberi, and from the very moment he opened his eyes, people felt something unusual about him. Animals became calm whenever he was near. Birds perched close to him without fear. Even as a baby, he stared at the world with eyes that looked far older than his age. But joy did not last long. Only a few months after his birth, tragedy struck. Both of Zuberi's parents passed away suddenly, leaving him an orphan. His mother's youngest sister took him into her home and raised him with deep love and care. She alone saw him not as a strange child, but as a blessing. As Zuberi grew, it became clear he was different from other children. While boys his age played in the village square, Zuberi wandered into the forest. The animals never harmed him. Instead, they moved around him gently, as if he belonged to them. He knew the paths of the jungle better than he knew the paths of the village. The people of Umbari whispered about him, calling him a child touched by the unknown. However, Zuberi felt no fear of the wild. The forest was his true home.
He helped the elderly carry water, assisted farmers in lifting heavy loads, and never caused trouble. Still, whispers followed him everywhere, whispering of the strange child who walked with animals. One afternoon, an event occurred that changed the way the entire kingdom viewed him. A young woman was returning from the stream when a wild lion suddenly burst from the bushes and attacked her. Her scream echoed across the land. Zuberi, who was far away at his home, heard her cry as clearly as if she stood beside him. Without hesitation, he dashed out with supernatural speed, his feet barely touching the ground as he raced toward the danger. By the time he reached the scene, the terrified woman was only a heartbeat away from being struck down. The lion closed in rapidly. But the instant the lion caught sight of Zuberi approaching, it halted as if an invisible force had stopped it. The great beast stood still, staring at the boy with recognition. Zuberi walked forward calmly and placed his hand on the lion's head. The wild creature became peaceful, lowering itself in submission. The frightened woman was saved, and the villagers who witnessed the moment were frozen in shock. They had never seen anything like it. A lion that had gone wild moments ago now behaved like a tamed creature in the presence of a young boy. After a moment, the lion turned away and bolted quietly back into the forest. News of the incident spread across Umbari like wildfire. From that day forward, people no longer saw Zuberi as just a strange forest child. They began to see him as something extraordinary, a protector born among them, a savior chosen by powers beyond their understanding. Zuberi continued proving this true. Whenever thieves attacked travelers or stole from farmers, Zuberi tracked them across difficult terrains with ease. He found their hidden refuge deep in the forest, a rough camp where criminals hid themselves. He would retrieve every stolen item and return them to their rightful owners. If the criminals resisted, Zuberi defeated them effortlessly. Their combined strength was nothing compared to his. Soon, crime in Umbari fell sharply because everyone feared the mysterious boy who always found the wicked. Peace settled over the kingdom because of him. But one day, a threat greater than anything Umbari had seen arrived. The princess of Umbari was returning home from a ceremonial visit, guarded by a group of trained soldiers. Without warning, warriors from a rival kingdom ambushed them. Their attack was swift and deadly. They overpowered the princess's guards, defeated them, and carried the princess away. They took her deep into their territory, into a heavily guarded enemy camp. Then they sent a threatening message to Umbari's ruler, King Balunga. The king immediately dispatched his strongest and most skilled warriors to rescue his daughter. He trusted their training, their courage, and their strategy. Days passed, then more days, until finally only one warrior returned. He carried injuries, fear, and a heavy heart. He told the king how powerful the enemy soldiers were, how they destroyed almost the entire rescue team. He explained that he had been spared only so he could deliver the enemy's message. They demanded that King Balunga surrender the most fertile land in Umbari, or never see his daughter again. The king was torn with grief. He could not sacrifice the land that fed his people, yet he could not abandon his daughter. He was restless and troubled, unable to find a solution. That was when one of the wise elders stepped forward. He reminded the king that the kingdom had someone unlike anyone else, someone who could do what no warrior had been able to do. He spoke the name with confidence, Zuberi. The elder assured the king that Zuberi alone had the strength, speed, instincts, and courage to rescue the princess. He believed that the young man chosen by the forest spirit was the only hope Umbari had left.
When word reached King Balunga about Zuberi's abilities, he summoned the young man to his royal court. Zuberi came without fear, standing in the presence of the king, the queen, the warriors, and the elders. The general prepared to make a rescue plan, but Zuberi needed none of it. All he requested was a piece of the princess's clothing. He held it gently and inhaled the scent. That alone was enough for him to know where she was. Without hesitation, he accepted the mission and immediately set out toward the enemy territory. While other warriors would have followed the long road across villages and farmlands, Zuberi's path was different. He slipped into the forest, allowing the spirit within him to guide his feet. The deeper he went, the more the animals stirred. They recognized him. They answered him. What happened next in the enemy camp became a legend that soldiers whispered for generations. When Zuberi reached the outskirts of the camp, the forest moved at his command. A pack of wolves launched a fierce attack from one direction. A pride of lions charged from another. A herd of elephants crashed through the camp from a third direction, tearing down everything in their path. Other wild animals also stormed the camp, surrounding the enemy from all sides. Screams filled the air. Confusion spread like fire. The enemy warriors could not understand what was happening. They ran in every direction, unable to tell who they were fighting or where safety could be found. While chaos swallowed the camp, Zuberi walked calmly through the destruction. The wild animals did not harm him. They parted around him as though he was one of their own. He went straight to the wooden cage where the princess was held. With barely any effort, he broke the lock and freed her. No one noticed him. No one could understand the storm happening around them. And before the chaos ended, Zuberi had already taken the princess and disappeared into the forest. He brought her safely back to Umbari, untouched and unharmed. When King Balunga saw his daughter alive, joy filled his heart beyond words. He threw a great celebration for the kingdom, praising Zuberi for achieving what an entire team of strong warriors failed to do. People honored him even more, calling him the true savior of Umbari. His name carried weight, respect, and wonder. But soon after the celebration, the king requested Zuberi's presence again in the palace. They had a private meeting behind closed doors. When both of them stepped out, the expressions on their faces were troubling. It was the look of two people who did not agree on something important. No one knew what happened inside that room, but the tension was clear. Then, disaster struck the kingdom. One day, Umbari fell under a sudden attack from an unknown gang. Before anyone could understand the situation, houses burned, people ran for safety, and warriors clashed with masked intruders. Zuberi rushed out immediately to defend his people, defeating the attackers with unmatched power. But when he returned home, he discovered the one thing he feared most: his beloved aunt. The woman who raised him, protected him, cared for him, had disappeared. Zuberi tried to track her scent, but it led nowhere. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. Confused and unsettled, he closed his eyes and reached deep into his inner vision. The same ability that had never failed him. A vision flashed before him, his aunt being taken by a group of unknown warriors. But he could not identify who they were, where they came from, or where they took her. For the first time in his life, Zuberi could not trace a living soul. It was a shock that shook him to his core. Days later, something even more strange happened. As Zubri moved through the busy heart of the kingdom, a hooded man stepped out of the shadows and cornered him. The stranger made it clear that Zubri's aunt was in their custody. If Zubri wanted her to remain alive, he must obey their orders. The man told him not to bother tracking her, because no ability of his would ever find her. After this encounter, something inside Zubri changed. At the same time, a new wave of terror struck Umbari. Prominent individuals, respected leaders, wealthy nobles, and influential figures began turning up dead in their own homes. The killer moved silently, leaving no trace. No one saw his face. No one understood his purpose. Panic spread through the kingdom, and in the midst of this fear, people noticed something strange. Zubri was not doing anything about it. The savior of Umbari, the man who once protected everyone, now remained silent, as though something dark had taken hold of him.
While the kingdom was already living in fear because of the mysterious killings, the people of Umbari did not know that an even greater tragedy was coming. It was a tragedy that broke the heart of the entire kingdom. One night, the chief of the king's cabinet, a man deeply loved by the people for his kindness, was attacked in his own home. His house was heavily guarded by trained warriors, but the killer who came that night moved with a force and speed no one could match. The guards fell one after another, unable to hold back the attacker. The chief himself did not survive. The assassin reached him in his private chamber and carried out the killing with precision. As the chief lay bleeding, he made one final request before his life faded. He wanted to see the face of the man who had ended his life. The assassin agreed. When the mask was removed, what the chief saw broke his dying heart. Standing before him was the very man the kingdom had trusted and celebrated, Zubri, the protector, the savior, the man they believed would always guard them. What no one in Umbari knew was that Zubri was the one behind all the recent killings. This was the reason he never came out to hunt the murderer. The villagers had believed he stayed silent because his beloved aunt was missing, but the truth was far more painful. Something powerful was controlling his actions, forcing him down a dark path he never wanted. But Zubri's mission that night did not go unseen. A young girl, the chief's granddaughter, was hiding quietly in the chamber. As Zubri was about to leave, he sensed a living presence in the room. When he moved toward the hiding place, he found the girl trembling in fear. She had witnessed everything. Zubri could not bring himself to harm an innocent child. He turned and left her alive. The girl later told the entire story of what she saw. The people of the kingdom were shocked, heartbroken, and full of disappointment. Their protector had become the very threat they feared. Their hero had become the nightmare haunting their nights. Fear spread like wildfire. If Zubri, the strongest man in Umbari, had turned dangerous, then no one knew who his next target might be. The kingdom grew restless. Panic filled the streets. People locked their doors and whispered his name with trembling voices. The king gathered his cabinet for an urgent decision. They formed a special warrior team to go after him. Some advised that Zubri be captured alive, but the king refused this idea. His order was clear and strict: Zubri must be killed on sight. The warriors were hunting the hunter. Zubri knew they were searching for him. He stayed out of sight, not because he feared them, but because he did not want to harm his own people. Everywhere he passed, people ran away in panic. Mothers hid their children. Traders abandoned their stalls. They saw him as a monster now, a villain, a danger. But they did not know the truth. They did not know that Zubri was trapped under a power far greater than him. A force that held his aunt captive. A force that controlled his actions. A force tightening its grip on him day by day. Zubri needed to break free from this bondage before it destroyed him completely.
When Zubri was a child, there was a powerful sage who often visited the deep jungle where Zubri spent most of his time. The sage came to gather rare leaves and healing herbs, but during one of these visits, he discovered the boy who lived like a spirit of the wild. From the first moment, the sage sensed that the child carried a powerful destiny. He was the one who taught Zuberi about power and responsibility. He taught him how to endure the cruelty people showed him as a child who grew up close to beasts. And he taught him the principle that shaped his heart forever. Be good to people even when they don't deserve it. That's the true act of kindness. Now, in the darkest moment of his life, Zuberi knew he needed help. He needed the guidance of the one person who understood both the world of men and the hidden forces of nature. He set out on a long journey to find the sage in a distant land. Tracking him was not difficult, for Zuberi still remembered his scent, his energy, and his footprints from childhood. When he reached the sage, he told him everything. The dark force tormenting his life, the kidnapping of his beloved aunt, and how she was being used to turn him into a killing machine. He explained how the king had declared him wanted and how the kingdom now feared him as a monster. He also spoke of the strangest and most painful part. He could not track his aunt at all. It felt as though she no longer existed on Earth, even though his inner spirit told him she was still alive somewhere. He knew that the only way to face his enemies was to free his aunt first. The sage listened quietly, his face calm but heavy with concern. When Zuberi finished speaking, the sage entered a deep silent state, reaching out to the spirits he served. Minutes passed like hours. When he returned to reality, he finally understood what had been done. Zuberi's aunt was under a powerful spell, a spell cast by a dark wizard. This wizard had been consulted by the one who controlled Zuberi, and the spell made it impossible for any being to track her through physical senses, spiritual senses, or even inner sight. To break such a spell would require a high price. Zuberi accepted without hesitation. The sage explained that Zuberi's strength came from the earth, but the wizard's spell belonged to the shadow, and sunlight cannot track a shadow. To find her, he would need something older and purer, starlight. There was only one way, a sacred herb that bloomed once every decade, mixed with a ritual that required Zuberi's blood. This would temporarily weaken the spell's shroud, giving him just enough time to locate his aunt before the spell closed again. Zuberi set out to find the herb. The journey led him to a forbidden land filled with dangers and ancient secrets. He encountered mystical creatures that tried to block his path, forcing him to fight with strength and instinct. In one moment, he stepped into a deadly swallowing mud that began pulling him down. Guided by his inner spirit, he swung himself out, escaping just before it consumed him. Deeper into the eternal swamp jungle, he finally saw it. The sacred herb, glowing faintly, exactly as the sage had described. He took it and began his journey back, pushing through exhaustion and danger. Days passed, but his determination carried him forward until he finally returned to the sage. The ritual was prepared immediately. The herb was crushed. Zuberi's blood was mixed. Ancient words were whispered. Starlight energy rose within the chamber. And when the spell loosened just enough for Zuberi's inner senses to pierce through, the discovery shocked them both.
Zuberi tapped into his inner vision immediately after the ritual was performed. In that moment, his sight opened, and he saw where his aunt was being kept, locked deep inside a hidden dungeon beneath the kingdom palace. This was the truth he had been searching for. And with it came the final truth. The king was the man behind all the atrocities and manipulation, which explained why he once ordered his warriors to kill Zuberi on sight. To understand how things reached this point, the story takes us back to reveal everything that had been happening behind the palace. The king was never the true heir to the throne. His father, the former king, had been infertile. In secret, the old king sought help from another man so that the queen could conceive a child. Afterward, that helper was eliminated and the truth sealed away forever. But no secret stays hidden. Someone close to the throne knew exactly what happened. Although the child grew up in the royal family, no one, not even the child himself, knew he was not of the royal bloodline. This secret followed him into adulthood, even after he was crowned king. Everything remained buried until the abduction of the crowned king's daughter. During the chaos, the king privately investigated the matter and discovered that the betrayal came from someone close to him, the chief of his cabinet. Out of respect for the elder who had served beside him and his father for many years, he confronted him first, seeking an explanation. That was when the chief revealed his true intention. He wanted the king to extend the throne to his own clan. And then he struck the king with the revelation that changed everything. He knew the king was never the real son of the old king. He claimed he had proof, evidence, and even people willing to testify. To strengthen his threat, he explained that the reason for his betrayal was to form an alliance with enemy soldiers, ready to attack if the king dared resist. The land itself was the price he was willing to pay for this alliance. At that moment, the king knew he had been cornered. He couldn't seize the chief, not with the consequences that would follow. So he let it pass, pretending nothing was wrong. After his daughter was rescued, desperation began to push the king into darkness. He came up with a terrible plan, to secretly eliminate the chief and everyone who knew the forbidden truth. That was when he summoned Zuberi for a private meeting, asking him for a favor, to help him eliminate all those who were a threat to his reign. But Zuberi refused. The king was displeased, because he needed someone with Zuberi's rare capability. The chief was powerful and heavily guarded, and the king didn't want any mistakes. The king then launched a secret investigation into Zuberi. That was how he discovered both the man's strength and his only weakness, his beloved aunt. The king organized a group alongside a wizard who performed the ritual on her. The group created distractions around the kingdom, buying enough time to abduct her and complete the ritual. The hooded man was the king's messenger, delivering Zuberi's tasks and forcing him to eliminate everyone who knew the secret. After Zuberi completed the last mission, he realized the truth: he would never be free. Eventually, everything would be pinned on him. This made him even more determined to break free from the bondage. Back to the moment of discovery, with the vision revealing where his aunt was kept, he did not hesitate. He dashed toward the palace with incredible speed to rescue her. The dungeon entrance was heavily guarded by the king's men, but he pushed forward. He maneuvered past many of the guards, and when he was finally spotted, he took down the soldiers at once. Deeper inside the cold dungeon, he found his aunt chained. She was overjoyed to see him because deep within her, she knew he would come. Without any struggle, Zubri tore open the cell lock and rushed to her, embracing her with relief. He snapped the chains restraining her as if they were nothing. With her by his side, he fought his way out, clearing every path, shielding her in the chaos as if she were royalty. Soon, she was finally safe from captivity. They did not waste a moment. Together they went straight to the center of the kingdom, the busiest place in Umbari. There, his aunt told the villagers everything that had happened. The people were shocked that their king could commit such atrocities. They believed her without doubt because she was known throughout Umbari as a truthful woman. Zubri then told the villagers about the king's secret, how he had used him to eliminate people believed to be threats to his reign, and how he had used his aunt as leverage to force him into the killings. Suddenly everything made sense: the reason behind their heroes' wild and suspicious acts, and the targeted deaths of prominent figures. Anger erupted. The villagers stormed the palace in a furious riot, demanding that the king come out and face them. As the unrest grew, Zubri sensed that his aunt was no longer safe in the kingdom. He decided it was best for them to leave. Together they abandoned Umbari in search of refuge in another kingdom. There, they began a new life. His aunt eventually met a man she truly loved, married, and started her own family in peace. Zuberi continued living quietly, dedicating himself to protecting his new home in secret. His story spread across distant lands, even reaching the kingdom where he now lived. Yet no one knew the true identity of the man behind the legend. He lived the rest of his life in peace.
For centuries, the tale of Zuberi of Umbari lived only through scattered oral traditions, a forgotten African legend about a man raised by the wild, gifted with instincts beyond ordinary men, and driven by loyalty, vengeance, and the hunt for justice. His story was never written in one place, but preserved in fragments across ancient clan records, royal testimonies, and the memories of wandering storytellers. When modern researchers began comparing these fragments, the similarities were impossible to ignore. A hunter shaped by tragedy, a man bound to the beasts of the forest, a protector who became feared, a warrior seeking redemption. Long before cinema existed, Zubri was already the original hunter myth. Today, movie fans recognize the fictional character Craven the Hunter, but few know that the idea did not begin in comics or Hollywood. Many historians and African mythologists argue that Craven is simply a Western reinterpretation of a much older, deeper legend, the true story of Zuberi, the protector-turned-outcast whose life shaped the earliest understanding of what a superhuman hunter could be. So while the film tells a modern tale, the real hunter was Zuberi, and his legend began in the heart of ancient Africa, long before the world ever heard the name Craven.